of the historically one of the largest producers of high quality wines in the Northern Rhone, and in the last 20 years or so, they've seriously stepped up their game in terms of quality. They have extensive holdings up and down the river, from Côte-Rôtie all the way down to Cornas. They don't have Saint-Péray yet, but I think that would be really cool if they got that. Otherwise, they cover the whole range, and they're one of the major landowners on the Hermitage Hill, which is, as if you're attending this, you well know, one of the greatest pieces of wine growing land in the world. And anyway, we're going to talk a bit through recent vintages, where Delas has been, where it's going, taste wines, and also get a look inside, well, right now outside of the relatively new winery and house, a huge long project. And Claire, thank you very much. And tell us a little bit really about where you're standing right now.
Hello, Josh. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today at Delas Frères in Tain-l'Hermitage now since 2019. So it's a great pleasure for me really to welcome you here in the new winery, basically. The first vintage was 2019. What you can see in the back is the house we renovated, which will be used to welcome guests. We have some private suites as well, and tasting rooms. I'll show you a little bit around if you want. It's very hot here today. It must be about 32, 35 degrees. So
Okay.
if I turn around a little bit, you can see here the stunning winery wall, which has been built of carved stone, a project that the architect actually called Moving Mountains, which I really love because it's a little reference to the Hermitage Hill as well. Then here behind me, you can see the park with some old trees, an old ginkgo, a chestnut tree. And then here, just in the back, you can see our new cellar door. And all of that is situated in really in the city center of Tain-l'Hermitage, which is really fabulous, at the bottom of the hill of the Hermitage, pretty much.
And I think calling Tain-l'Hermitage a city is a little bit of a stretch.
That's right. Being close to New York, aren't you?
No, but it is a beautiful little town, and it's really great to see that come up there. Do we want to move inside, or should we wait for Jacques?
Yes, if you want. I'll show you a little bit around while Josh maybe can give some more background information. Just in regards to the vineyards, I wanted just to do a little summary.
Sure, we can do that outside.
Enough. Yeah, or inside, whatever.
No, we can do it now. Let's do it now. We're waiting for Jacques.
Just on the Hermitage, we're lucky enough to have 10 hectares on the granitic part of the Hermitage. In Crozes Hermitage, we're working on 20 hectares, mainly on the alluvium part in the valley, and 2 hectares in Saint-Joseph. In addition to that, of course, we buy grapes from long-standing partnerships we have with regional viticulturists and growers. And so we will vinify about half of our vinification in this new site, in the new winery here in Tain-l'Hermitage, which is dedicated to doing our domain wines, only the Northern Rhone so far, our domain wines and our single estate selections.
Okay,
So
and you also produce wines from the south, from Vacqueyras, Gigondas, Châteauneuf.
Yes, we do. But the southern range will be aged in Saint-Jean-de-Musée. But
okay, in the old facility, the original winery.
Yes, that's right. So I'll move a little bit inside.
Perfect.
At the same time, I'll try to give you a good view as well. Yep. So you can see here the inside of the winery. You can see the wonderful wall that is moving.
Yeah,
And from here, we'll go straight to the barrel cellar. I'm sorry, the sound and image quality might not be very good.
No, it's not bad.
Okay.
And you were saying that the cellar took how many years to put together?
Oh, look, the building actually took more than 2 years, and the total project took about 5 years. So it's a very long project, which we wanted really to mature completely, because it's not something you do every couple of years.
No, and it's a huge change from the old facility, which was I don't want to say primitive. That sounds negative, but it was very classic.
Thank you, Josh.
It was a cellar from the the 60s and the 70s.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a cellar that has grown very little by little. Delas Frères is from 1835. It has been bought by Champagne Deutz 1976, and then Roederer bought Champagne Deutz in 1993. So we are actually part of the Roederer group. Here we're in the barrel cellar, in one of the 2 barrel cellars we have in this new facility. I'll show you a little bit. Here we go. And the interesting thing is actually, we'll have a different barrel cellar for each vintage here, aging at the moment. So we're here in the top barrel cellar, where so far were the 2018 wines. These barrels are just emptied now because we bottled all our Northern Cru 2018 just in the last weeks, pretty much. And now these barrels are actually waiting for the 2020 vintage.
Okay, and obviously it's very efficient because now you're really just in one large room rather than being scattered around.
Yes, we have in total now. What's also interesting quality-wise, in total now we have nearly doubled our aging capacity in oak. We've gone from 460 barrels in our old site to 777 here in Darnaud. Now in 2 stories in 2 different barrel cellars.
Okay.
So that will be really interesting also for wines like Domaine des Grands Chemins. We are going to taste a little bit later because it's a wine that will further benefit from extended oak maturation.
Claire, could you move a little closer to the computer because your voice is a little soft. Perfect.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's better. It was nice. It was nice and soft, but maybe a little too. Why don't we talk a little bit about how 2020 is proceeding as a vintage?
2020 is, again, like every vintage pretty much, different to all the previous ones. It's quite interesting, actually. We had an incredibly warm spring, actually. March, April were unusually hot and sunny. And of course, everything accelerated in the vineyards as well. Then a little bit dry. We had not much rainfall at all. Luckily, that changed a little bit in May and especially in June. We got a little bit more rainfall, which was really, really perfect for the vineyards. A low disease pressure year for sure. Good crops so far. We were a bit worried, we had some hail in 2019 in Grange, but things seem to have picked up really, really well. The hail damage for us has not been extended over 2 years, how it could have been. So we are looking at a very interesting, quite early year. We are preparing to be ready for vintage by October 17th, August 17th, excuse me. So all the cellar hands will be back from holidays for sure. However, due to a little bit of water stress right now, the raisin is actually going through reasonably slowly. And I think we are lagging a bit compared to what we anticipated. And so we might start maybe with the whites around August 24th.
Okay. And how are the 2018s looking? It's another nice vintage. You've been very fortunate, but how do you like how they're looking?
We have been very fortunate. 2018 is very, how can I say? It's elegant and concentrated. It's well balanced and fresh. And for the Hermitage, for instance, a bit later than the Croz Hermitage, there was a little bit of rain after the first week of harvest of crows, which basically served to really unlock everything for the terraced vineyards, meaning from one day to the next, alcohols were going up, potential alcohols. The colors were just incredible. And, you know, we had been waiting because we thought it's not quite mature yet, but we'll get there. And after the little bit of rain, everything just accelerated and was absolutely perfect. And so,
Look who's here.
Hi, Jacques.
Hey, Jacques, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
No, it's good to see you. Step a little bit, step a little bit closer to Claire, just so we can get you both in there.
come in.
Perfect.
Come closer. There you go.
So we got a little walk back. So we got a little bit of a walk around, and obviously it's hot outside. And just talking about vintages, and I guess well, we'll taste the wines a little bit later. But 2017, another really interesting vintage, but quite a bit different than 18 in style.
Very much so. We might just move the computer a bit closer to the bottles so you can hear us while we're tasting as well.
Yes, that's a good idea.
So I might actually, excuse me, you know, that's the thing with live presentations, needing to find the right approach.
Actually, Jacques, just for this, I think we'll start with the white, with the Condrieu.
Let's start with the
You prefer to start with
Yeah, because normally when I yes, so normally when I taste, I like to start with red and go to white. And how do you guys feel about that, by the way? I mean, that's something that I learned many years ago with Burgundians, that they prefer to end with white.
Okay, no problem.
What's your feel?
Jacques being Burgundian in heart and soul. We always finish with the whites because it kind of just underlines the white when you taste it after a red. We always do that, but for this time it is nice to start actually with the Condrieu and then move down further south.
No, I think so.
The first wine we are going to taste, Clos Boucher, Josh, which you know very well.
Know very well for a long time.
Favorites.
Yes, always.
Now, Clos Boucher. Thank you, Jacques. Clos Boucher is a 2-hectare vineyard, which we are lucky enough to get the fruit from. And this 2-hectare vineyard is situated actually on the next hill after Châteaubriand, in a little village called, just north of Châteaubriand, a village called Vérin, overlooking the Rhone. And the vineyard is, the 2 hectares has got a very interesting orientation, or, you know, facing the sun. It's east, southeast, south, and southwest. So it's got really like a movement, a little bit like a little amphitheater.
The opposite of the amphitheater.
Yes, it's
Concave.
not concave or convex.
Not concave, convex.
Convex.
Okay, convex. So you're getting sun exposure in different parts of it at different times.
And also slight variations in soil, exactly. And that's why, because, you know, we like things, not to complicate things, we've separated these 2 hectares in 5 different blocks, which are picked separately with nearly a week in between, pressed separately and fermented in different ways, either in stainless steel tank, in barrels, different coopers, different ages, etc.
And I've learned over the years it's a wine that ages extremely well.
Yes, yes, the Clos Boucher, as opposed to our other Condrieu, which is La Galopine. Clos Boucher, also because of its oak aging, and I guess the tannins it picks up from the oak, and its balance, its freshness, has got a very good aging capacity.
One thing I think would be a little interesting to talk about too, not just in reference to Condrieu, and really thinking specifically of Marsanne and Roussanne. Very, very few people of my generation, which is about the same as Jacques. Yeah.
Thank you, Jacques.
Well, we are, and Claire will always be younger, always. Is that nobody, and even to this day, really talks very much about the tannins in white wines, right? I mean, because with thicker skinned white grapes, of course, you're going to get tannin. If you're using whole bunches, you're going to get tannin. And if you're aging in oak barrels, you're going to get tannin. And if you mention tannins in white wine to a lot of people, they look at you like you're crazy. But they're there.
The Marsanne has got the reputation also of being quite a tannic white grape, especially in comparison to Roussanne. I think that when it is not at its perfect maturity, you can get a little bit of bitterness. So it's really about picking at the right time, and the work in the vineyard as well. With regards to the packing, partly, and from where, etc.
Sorry to do this. Can I ask you guys to step up?
Tannins. Some of the tannins in the red are compared with Anthocyane and Color. But all the wines, white, rosé, and red, contains tannins. And it's very important to consider that white wines contain some tannins, and it's essential for the balance, for the length in mouth, for the length of aging. The tannins are very, very important, very essential in the white wines, certainly as in the reds.
Yeah. Can I ask you guys to step a little closer to the computer, because some people are saying that they're having a little bit of a hard time hearing you, because I think you're far away from the microphone. Sorry.
On peut augmenter le micro de l'ordi. Peut-être.
Certainly.
We'll try to.
Maybe, you know what? Maybe go back. You can grab the wines while we're talking. Be up close, and then so step back, then come forward.
Okay, we're pretty much as close as we can.
That's perfect. No, that's perfect. It's just that when you were about a meter back, your voice was fading away.
Okay.
Much better.
Just to come back to the Condrieu. Are you tasting it at the same time, Josh?
Yes. Yep.
There right now. I think you can really see
It's still very tight. It's still extremely tight. It has good tension. I think you see some of the ripeness of 17.
It is very much so, but also, as you know, we like to keep the tension in the white wines, a little bit of acidic backbone, simply by not doing our malolactic fermentation completely. So depending on the vintage, we'll have more or less malolactic fermentation, and therefore have a fresher finish and a better balance in these wines, which can easily get to 15% alcohol. I think 17 is 14.5, but 15 and 16, I'm pretty sure were at 15 degrees out percentage alcohol.
Yeah, Il Viognier can go crazy if you let it.
It can very easily.
And with the Galopine, with the does that sees mallow, correct?
It's the same. We really make it
You discourage mallow.
very varied according to the vintage.
Okay.
Also, what's important on this wine, the Clos Boucher, which we really, I mean, here we can really say actually crafted, because, you know, we're producing all these little puzzle pieces, and in the blend, we'll only use half to make the blend of Clos Boucher. The other half will go into La Galopine. Okay. And therefore, it's really a wine that's created to match meals. You can drink it, of course, and enjoy it by itself, but it has the structure and the complexity, which will really accompany
Yep.
Dishes very, very well.
Yeah, and what do you like? A lot of people ask these for. I'm not sure why, but I think that Condrieu is the, and actually white Rhone in general, if I think about it, is one category where people are always lost. So the kind of questions we get, I see from subscribers, and if you read internet, you know, people are chatting, they always say, what do I serve with it, more so than almost any other area or category. So with Condrieu, what do you like to eat with it?
Jacques, lobster.
Okay.
Lobster, crabs.
Okay. So rich,
but very spicy.
Yeah.
Okay, so Southeast Asian style.
Yes, it's really something that's very interesting with Asian spices, a little bit of, you know, sweet, sour, hot, tangy, saffron.
Saffron. I think I agree. I think saffron is fabulous with
the
Viognier.
good balance.
No, very much so. And what about which cheese?
With cheese.
Rigotte de Condrieu.
I think I prefer Hermitage white with cheese personally. The sweetness in the, well, it's not sweet, obviously. It's
No, but the big fruit.
Cheese of goat. Very creamy.
So like, well, the cheeses that they make in Condrieu are goat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's good. I've always liked it with a young Saint Marcelin or Saint Félicien, a young one.
Fresh
Before it starts to.
and creamy.
Yes, exactly. And it works, but it's sort of the same idea, I guess, as a young Chev.
I think we'll have to stop talking about food, otherwise you'll have my tummy rumbling.
Well, it's almost dinner time there, and it's kind of lunchtime here, so maybe that's why I'm thinking about food. And we don't have any white wines from the south, Marsan Roussin, but I did want to touch on those quickly, because I do see an emerging interest in the wines. I mean, there's still a bit of a mystery, I think, to a lot of palates, because Marsan and Roussin make very dry, sort of savory wines with a lot of texture. You know, they're very chewy, and the fruit can often be on the dried side, right? I mean, they're not opulent and succulent; they're more savory. And what is the reception that you have among your customers, the feedback that you have towards White Crows, White Saint Joseph, White Hermitage?
I think mostly people we talk to are already familiar with them and enjoy them, each in their own style. You know, for the White Crows, the delicacy of the acacia flower style, for instance. And I mean, White Hermitage, honestly, it's like a well-kept secret. But it is really a wine that once you've tasted it, I think it's something you have difficulty to forget, really. And even though it can be quite generous and powerful and therefore structured and quite tannic as well, it is it has got so much length and complexity that, for instance, many Burgundy lovers I think will really appreciate the White Hermitage.
And what is the, I think I know the answer, but what is the production of White Hermitage compared to red now overall?
40 hectares on the Hermitage Hill with yields around 30 hectoliters per hectare.
Okay.
So it's quite very tiny.
So that's 40 hectares on a hill planted of 137.
Yeah.
Okay, and the percentage of red Hermitage versus white Hermitage at Delas?
10%. 1
10%.
hectare of white and around 9 hectares of red.
Wow. Okay. And over at Saint Joseph?
Our proper vineyards is a large majority of reds, just a tiny part of whites in Saint-Épine area.
No, I think this probably has something to do with how unfamiliar many people are with the wines. They're not a lot. And I get the impression that an awful lot of them stay nearby in the restaurants because the restaurants always have them. I'm talking if you're in restaurants in Saint-Péray, in Tournon, Valence, obviously. And with that small production, the very local market takes care of a lot of it.
Exactly.
Absolutely, Josh. We need to keep in mind that basically the whole of the Northern Rhone appellations are basically smaller than, let alone Châteauneuf-du-Pape. So therefore, of course, they are quite tiny in their production and even more so the whites. And that's why I was talking about the well-kept secret, because only very, very little whites, as you said, probably make it to the export market.
Yep. So moving on to red, you produce reds from north to south. So you make two côtes rôtis, correct?
Yes, we make two côtes rôtis, Seigneur de Maugiron, and we're lucky enough to make a London. And then, of course, Saint-Joseph. We have 3 Saint-Joseph in our portfolio, which is first Saint-Joseph, which is Les Chalets, which is unoaked, and really just let's say, the example of what granite can do as a terroir to an oaked wine. So in regards to fine tannin structures, elegance, freshness on the finish, and terrace vineyards.
Terrace vineyards and the representation of all the part of the appellation, which is very long, from the Condrieu area to the Cornas.
60 kilometers.
From the north to the south, 60 kilometers of vineyards.
And actually, south of Saint-Péray, that little piece.
Yes.
Exactly. Just a little part.
Yeah, which I think belonged to somebody who, I think it belonged to somebody who was very important.
Yes. So Jacques,
you know very well the Saint-Joseph appellation.
It's It's one of the most funny. I always tell people, it's like, look, you look at the map of Saint Joseph and you see the big run down from Saint Michel Saron or whatever, and it goes all the way down, and it hits Cornas or Chateaubourg, and then Cornas, Saint-Péray, and then this little piece and it says Saint Joseph.
So moving over to Crozes Hermitage, now situated on the opposite river bank of Saint Joseph. We are moving on to our domain wine, which is Domaine des Grands Chemins in Crozes Hermitage. So we are on 2017 as well. I don't know if you can see it. Domaine des Grands Chemins is for us about a blend of about 5 hectares out of 20 hectares of our own vineyards. What's also important just to point out is that this domain wine, these vineyards have been worked organically since 2013.
Okay.
So Domaine des Grands Chemins normally is a blend we make mainly with the same blocks as the base, like Grand Clotilde, Chenvert, and then yes, and then we'll just add, depending on the performance of the vintage, a little bit of other blocks as well, maybe for vibrance, for fruit, or more for structure. So it varies a little bit. It's not every year exactly the same composition.
Okay, and this is mostly from calcaire soils, correct? Not really, or
Yes, it's alluvium. Yes,
yes.
we're here on alluvium soils. So we're basically all of our vineyards in Crozes Hermitage are situated in the valley of the alluvium soils.
So south of
in the south and
south of 10.
the appellation. Exactly.
Right. You must be curious. It'd be interesting to see what you could do with the granite soils of the north, which of course look at Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne and look at Tournon or slightly down, because the soils are so similar to what you have at Tournon and what you have at Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne, just across the river. I've always thought it would be really interesting to see what you guys could do with that part of Crozes someday.
It's, however, not. It's not the same style at all. Even though Crozes Hermitage is probably very much known for its style from the alluvium part, the other areas of the appellation are much smaller. It's just that the alluvium part is probably, I'd say, 3/4 of the appellation of Crozes Hermitage, which is by now about 1,700 hectares. Now, Domaine des Grands Chemins, as I said, has been vinified for the 2019 vintage here in Saint-Hermitage in the new winery, but the 17 was still vinified in Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne, where we use stainless steel tanks, of course, temperature cooling, and an integrated pigeage system, which is
concrete and stainless.
Yes, we've got both. We've got open concrete fermenters and stainless steel fermenters with a pigeage system where you've got like 4 kinds of paddles in the tank already, and you can action them separately or together as you want to basically re-emerge your cap in your wine to get the extraction you want from the skins in the, what do you call it? The yeah, I just said it.
And sorry to ask you one more time. Somebody else is saying that they're having a hard time hearing.
Oh, sorry.
So
saying is it's that with these tanks, it's really easy to get the extraction you want, because you can either action the 4 paddles at the same time and keep your cap immersed in your wine to get a soft, long extraction, or you can really do a pigeage by moving the paddles individually.
I find this, I mean, the 17s are very, as a group, very generous wines. And here I'm already getting a lot of, I mean, it's traveled a few thousand miles, so it could be a little different. I find it very open.
Yes.
It's showing a different type of spice than when I tasted it when it's young.
Mm-hmm.
It's less of, it's moved back. Usually when it's very young, you get a lot of the pepper, and it's really just pepper. And here you're starting to see some other more exotic spice, and even a little bit of floral character is starting to come up. It's actually it's very accessible today.
I think it's also a characteristic you have got from the 2017 vintage. I think it's really a vintage which has got, now that it's got a little bit of age in bottle, it's got quite vibrant aromatics, and it's quite open and generous, actually. What's interesting is now the tannins have softened a little bit, and you've got a lot of fruit sweetness on the palate. And it's, as it is a Gros Hermitage from the alluvium part, the pH is a little bit higher, and you get a really round mouthfeel, a softness, but with structure, but which is well integrated as well.
But that's quite a bit different than the style of 18 and definitely 19.
We're actually enjoying it very much.
No, as am I. I'm a little. I'm pleasantly surprised.
Ah.
Well, no, I mean, I'm pleasantly surprised by where. No,
We too.
No, but by where it is. How it's showing today.
Yeah.
This is, maybe it's a flower day, or.
Well, over here, it must be the same. It can't be the same, because over here, we've got some very hot, warm south wind blowing in your face.
Well, it's between 95 and 100 degrees Fahrenheit here today.
Yes, but on top of that, we've got the Verona chocolate aromatics.
Yeah.
When it's the south wind, we always get the.
Oh, they come sweeping through. So you need to become a chocolate expert, and you can tell what type of which beans they're roasting on a certain day. You say, these are from Madagascar.
Mm-hmm. We're probably the other kind of truffle experts.
You're right, exactly. Well, that's what they sell. That's what they sell a lot of. No, it's really by surprise. It's very accessible, and I had a feeling that a lot of the 17s were going to be very friendly for people on the early side. I would say in the old days, we would say a restaurant vintage, but now we don't really have restaurants. So it's, I think it's a wine for people.
The picnic.
It's a picnic vintage.
Yes, but it's a good one. But I think to me, it's a very nice vintage for people who maybe don't want to or can't age wines. I mean, if you have a real cellar, fantastic. 2019, 2015, 2010. And it always kind of surprises me that people who don't have the facility to age wines for a long time, buying these wines that require 20 years. You say, what are you going to do with this? And this is an absolutely delicious wine today. I don't even think it needs to be, decanted or whatever. You don't need to make any excuses. Oh, I wish I'd opened it earlier. Let's carafe it. It's ready to go.
Wow.
Just pleasant.
I'm really pleased you like it as much as we do.
Yeah, very cool. Speaking of 2019, and I know we spoke about it a little bit earlier, there's a lot of attention being given to the 19s, which I obviously tasted with you in March on the last trip.
Yeah.
And how is it shaping up since I was there? So that was a little over 4 months ago.
It's actually funny you mentioned that because we
yesterday,
tasted.
yesterday morning, we have a large tasting of the 19th.
Okay, good. So this is a fresh question.
It's very fresh in our mind.
Oh, good.
It's certainly an exceptional vintage.
Okay.
Even on the basic range to the top, it's very pleasant and very profound, very complex. Certainly a great vintage, which are not very easy to understand immediately. You know, and you remember certainly the 15 vintage is very secret, and the 19 is certainly the same approach. Sorry, perhaps you have something to say?
I understand what you mean, but to me, 19 is more solar than 15 was.
Certainly, because the acidity is higher, the level is lower.
It's lower.
The pH are higher, and the acidity is lower,
so.
and 19 it's just powerful. But secret and long and length and complex.
Yeah, for me, and it's an early. Again, I was tasting the 19s in March of 2020, so it's not really fair. But everything I tasted had been through Malo, as you know. I mean, I don't like tasting pre-Malo wines in barrel. I think it's a waste of time and it's a waste of wine. So, the thing that strikes me as interesting for the 19s compared to the 15s is that in 19, I think early, and find out as soon as I can get there how things have changed. I think that the tannins are more harmonious with the fruit in 2019 than 2015. And I think 2015 is an amazing vintage, but because of the way the tannins sit on the fruit, they just need a lot of time.
I think 15 might be a bit more austere than 19.
Exactly.
Austere.
Well, okay, Claire, you're from the Rhone. You're from north of Lyon. Jacques is from south of Lyon. Jacques is from north of Lyon. You're from south of Lyon. So different views on things.
No, honestly, I think it's also something I might go back to talk about when we taste the Hermitage. You know that for the Hermitage, the Delas vineyards are all situated on the granitic part of the Hermitage. So when you say granitic part, so it's the left side when you look at the vineyard of the Hermitage, and it's on steep terraces except for about 2 hectares at the bottom of the hill, where you've got a little bit of alluvium that mixes with the decomposed granite, brittle granite that's kind of washed down from the hill. And then,
okay, and I think we have a few pictures of Hermitage.
Oh, good.
That we could pop up.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out how to make all of that happen. So talking about the Domaine de Tourette, how many pieces do you source? Oh, by the way, so that's the sorry everybody.
Sorry, yes. Ah, very nice.
So, how many parcels would come into play here?
So for Domaine des Tourettes, so it's only, of course, as it's a domain. In Hermitage, we don't buy any fruit. It's only our own grapes that come into the blends for the reds and for the whites. Now, Domaine des Tourettes, we have 7.5 hectares situated on the granitic hillside of Les Bessards. And we've got 2.6 hectares situated on the summit of the Hermitage Hill, which really,
granitic too.
yes, which are granitic too, and which is the highest block on the Hermitage, which is called Les Grandes Vignes.
Okay.
And the wine Domaine des Tourettes is actually a blend from both of these vineyards.
Separate parts.
Yeah, of these separate parts. However, when we harvest and during the aging of the wines, we'll probably have about 9 different batches, because we'll pick each block and sub-block separately according to the age,
the exposition,
orientation.
rotation, etc.
Exactly. So that's why when you come to the winery, Josh, you're tasting Domaine des Tourettes and Domaine des Tourettes and Domaine des Tourettes and Domaine.
Right.
The sabot, the Bessard, the
Voilà.
eau de coteau,
Exactly.
etc., etc.
Exactly. And for us, actually, the philosophy, and it's not true only on the Hermitage, but in general, is to keep the batches separate and to push them out to the end of their aging, to have a very precise idea of what they're going to be close to bottling before we do the actual blend, to be as precise as possible in what we want to achieve with this blend.
Each terraces,
Yeah.
each exposition.
Yeah.
So it's a wine of
Wonderful.
it's a wine of
Merci. So this what we're seeing on the picture here is actually, and we're very lucky, it's Les Bessards, and it's the Delas vineyard in one single block. You can see here. Yeah, it's all our vineyard here. There's
Yep, and that's the next wine that we're going to taste. Actually, we can move to that now.
Exactly, it's the Domaine des Tourettes, which is, for most of it, originated from these vineyards. So the picture has been probably, it's the heart of the Hermitage here. And the picture has been taken probably in, I'd say, April, May, because I can see the poppies. And that's where you can see that the vineyard is organic. Because what's complicated on the Hermitage, and also on Saint-Joseph, when you have steep terrace vineyards, is you need to free your vineyard from weeds, because otherwise the competition for water is too severe. Because of course, for us here in the Northern Rhone, it's totally unirrigated. And as the summers can be very hot and dry, if you have weeds in the vineyard, your vines will suffer.
Weeds and vineyards.
Yeah, very much so. And you can imagine that on these hillsides, on these terraces, it's impossible to get up any tractor or something like that. Even a horse, you can't get it up there. So we'll basically work and free these vineyards of the weeds with some winch by hand, with a hoe, and with a plow attached to a winch, which we call in French a treuil. So it's very
and that is the label. And how much do we make? How much do you make of this now? Of Bessards?
How do we make? Sorry.
About the production of Bessar.
It depends on the vintage. In 97, I think we produced 3,000 bottles with the bottles. Oui.
Well, that's how you know you're getting old when you mix up your decades.
Sorry.
Decades.
I didn't mean 97, I meant 2017. Oh, you're only off by 20 years.
97. Sorry.
It's completely normal. Trust me. I think it's normal. And it's interesting because it's a wine of it has structure, but I find the tannins very well. No, the tannins are good with the fruit.
Now, Les Bessards is really a selection only from the vineyard Les Bessards, which you can see there. And it's, for most of it, actually coming from the right side of this hill, which we actually call the Tourette. I know it makes laugh. Some people laugh, of course. But it really, you have here in Tournant the Marquis de la Tourette. Thank you. And so Les Bessards is really coming, you can see probably a little, not in the middle, a little bit to the right. You can see a big cherry tree and a little tiny house on the right. And so the vines for Les Bessards are pretty much situated there at the bottom and up to the middle of these terraces.
And this is a wine I had a 1990 Bessard last year that was fabulous.
1990, wow.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I know this is a wine that can age for a very, very long time. I think even in a warm vintage like 17.
See, for us, the wine in Les Bessards, or the wine we make from Les Bessards, is kind of really underlining its terroir, and even more so, it really claims its terroir. It is granitic, it's a little bit austere, very mineral, very rock. You know, it comes from rock. And it's really what you can see in wine. It's very dense, very concentrated, structured, and so mineral.
Which in this picture, you can see little pieces of the vineyard, and you can see the rock easily.
But because most of it is west facing, with the setting sun, so the hotter sun of the day. So Jacques is saying this granitic, this granitic tension and freshness and elegance and nearly austerity is balanced by its generous warm fruit. So it's really every vintage a very, very complex wine and a very interesting wine, so much potential.
And speaking of Hermitage, you have a new wine coming out, a new Hermitage. So the first one in...
Not completely new, because we tasted since a long time ago, since
2010.
But new for because I've tasted it. I've had the chance to taste it over the years. I tasted the 15 and the 16 in March.
We tried it even until 2010 since 2010, because we are completely convinced of the quality of something very pure and unique on the Hermitage Hill with this new cuvée. So we try it until 5 years, and 15 vintage is a good year to present this new parcel, new single vineyard.
So,
Sorry, I had a quick question from somebody. Are Tourette and Bessar destemmed fruit, or do you keep clusters?
Yeah.
for us so far, it's 100% destemmed. We've made some trials with whole bunch, which at the time and in the other winery haven't been that conclusive for us and for our staff. But you know us, we're always moving, always looking to, make new experiences, etc. And it's not something that's 100% set in stone.
Okay,
So
and is
we'll definitely play around at some point with it again.
and does the same go for example, is the same the truth for Côte Rôtie, Saint Joseph? Is it for all of the red wines?
So far for us, it is really everything is 100% destemmed. It has happened that in the Hermitage we have included some whole bunch, but globally you can say we are destemmed.
And so this particular wine, when will it be available into the market?
So we're just about releasing it now, and just the interesting thing in this wine is that it is coming from the lieu-dit, from the block we call Les Grandes Vignes, which is, as I said previously, the very highest block on the Hermitage. So it's 325-meter altitude, and in vintages like, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, which were very hot and solar and warm vintages, these kind of altitude blocks, of course, are just having an incredible potential. And what we love about this wine, it's to us, it's the Burgundy of Hermitage.
Okay.
Burgundy of Hermitage.
Et en plus, on propose la qui commence à développer.
And now the interesting thing, that's the thing that's going to be fabulous for the wine lovers, is that we actually make available now a 2015 to start with, and 16, 17, 18. So a wine which is already offering a maturity and complexity which is really unfolding.
It develops the beginning of all the potential.
And you've seen them, Josh. It's got. This is it's a block. Again, it's like an arena. It's 2.6 hectares. It's very rocky, very stony, as I said, at the top of the Hermitage, overlooking the whole valley. And all the very small, brittle bits of granites have washed down and are probably now at the bottom of Les Bessards. And what's left on Les Grandes Vignes is very much the pure rock. We actually have probably about, I'd say, 1/5 of a hectare that's not even planted, simply because the rock is just at the surface.
There's nothing.
There's
nothing but the rocks.
Yep.
We call it our biodiversity reserve, but if you wanted to plant vines there, it would probably be with dynamite.
Okay, well, so we are at the end of our hour, and I know it's dinner time for you, or almost dinner. And since it's very hot here, I was thinking of you guys. So I had,
Thank you, Josh.
I don't have any.
but yeah, I have my very French workers beers.
Oh, that's so funny.
Excellent.
And they're the perfect beers to drink with the kind of weather you're having. And thank you guys very, very much. There's so much to cover. I wish we had more than an hour. And my God, we could talk about each of these wines for that long. But I thank you for helping us move through quickly, showing us what's happening there, talking about the vintages. There's so much to learn. And the cool thing is every year it starts all over again, right?
It does.
And you always have to forget a little bit of the past.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Because right now, if I asked you what happened with the harvest of 1997, you'd say, who cares? But in March of 1998, it was very important to know all the details. Now it's a funny cycle that you guys go through, and we really appreciate it, and the work and the thought you give, and obviously what you put in the glass. Thank you.
Well, cheers to everyone.
Yes, and see you sooner than later. Be safe, be healthy. Let's try to get back to normal.